doing a quick little recording, a quick tutorial. To start off with, this is what kind of my sketch looks like. It's very loose. What I really started off with, which let me go ahead and show you, was I kind of just started off with vague shapes, like I showed before, with a little triangle and circles. And you can see some of the basic circle sketching still there. And then I started with a sketch of the ear and all that stuff, just to kind of give you a basic idea. I'm sketching Carcat from Homestuck, and I just want to show you the sketch before I move on to line art. For line art, I would either use a line work layer with the pen, with the black, or something like that. But my favorite is this tool, which somebody gave me. Sorry, Skype. Somebody gave me a summary of, which I call it it's called the ink pen, I think. We have it set to quality 1, which is the fastest, and I have it pretty hard on 20, and only the size is adjusted with each stroke. I like it because it's nice and steady, even though I have it on the fastest and I have my stabilizer at 1. It's really nice and I like it. So, oops. That's what I use for that. And in a second, for you guys, a couple minutes from me, I'll have done the line art and I'll show you my coloring style. So, that's line art. It's pretty close to the sketch. I like to keep it that way. That way I don't get too messy. But I also don't like to keep it too close to the sketch because, well, usually I drift off from the sketch quite a bit to make it more neat and prettier. But I like the sketch originally. I like it actually more than the finished little line art. So that's that. Sometimes I'll just incorporate the sketch into just being a line art. But in any case, let me go ahead and show you how I do my shading, really. Let me just quickly get this ready. I use the ink pen for even these simple things because it makes it easier just to outline it from underneath the line art on a separate layer and get that done. So he's a character from Homestuck. He's a troll. So his skin is gray. So yeah, sorry, people talking. I have people who live in the same house as me. It's annoying. But yeah, I usually outline it with the ink pen, and then once I'm done with that, I just use the dye tool to fill in the entire area. So for right now, I'll do the outlining. There we go. There you go. And what I usually do at this point is I use the brush tool for this stuff, like for my shading. I have it set so it's at 100 between hard and soft, and the quality is 3. It has stabilizer of 1. I keep my blending and dilution at 0 and my persistence at 80. And I allow it to affect the blend, the size, and the density, the pressure that I apply with my tablet. So it makes an alright shading tool. I wouldn't use it for everything, but it's pretty good if you want sharp shadows. If you had a lot of soft shading around here, then you would probably want to use this to sharpen it up slightly, the brush tool. If you use the settings I have. And what I usually do after I get all this in here, which just give me a second, I'll have it. And usually at this point I use the watercolor tool to do some blending, which I pretty much have my watercolor tool set to blending 100, dilution 50, and persistence 80. And, all that. I like it like that. It blends pretty well. I know a lot of people don't really use it so much. And what I do is around these sort of shadows underneath the hair, where it's supposed to be kind of sharp, I blend it a little bit, but I don't completely blend out the hard edge. And we'll just do this. Softly blend that, nice and smooth. And then here we go. And then after this, what I would do is, like, because he has red blood, I would give him some red on his nose and cheeks, and a little bit on his ears. And then what I would do is I use the marker tool kind of for a little bit of blending, and then I go back with the watercolor tool and do this. With my marker, usually I use it to, let me try and get this to do what I want it to. Usually I'd use it for kind of the nose, kind of, like, you know, the shading around here. Use it a little bit, and then with the watercolor we just fix it up a bit. I mean, you know, it's not perfect, but I like the marker tool a lot, even though I don't use it so often as I use the brush tool essentially like most people would use the marker tool, I think. And I use a really large watercolor to do this. And usually I don't use a whole lot of fancy brushes, I just, you know, work with it. I'd take the light color, make it a little bit lighter, and make a little dot. And with that, you just blend it around a little bit. Maybe even with the marker, you know, add some in if it'll do what I want it to. Let me try this. See if I can get it to be nice. Usually I use the marker tool for this, mostly actually. Just that. There we go. So that's kind of how I do the skin. I usually will add like little bubbles of color here. Use the brush a bit. You know. There we go. So that's one of the things I do. And so that's how I do my skin. So I'm going to take a little bit of darker color, get underneath his lip there. If he were a girl, I'd probably use the red color to blend his, make his lips look flushed. Like if he were a girl, that's what I usually do. With guys, sometimes I do that, but not too often. And, sorry, adjusting my headphones. And I'm going to stop recording for a sec and come back to you once I've got his hair filled in, and then I'm going to show you how I do hair. So we have the hair colored nice and pretty. So from here, I select the brush tool, which is my main brush for coloring. It used to be the marker, but nowadays I use the brush because I have it set basically as a marker. And I would go from where I think his roots are, which they kind of go from here to here on this. So I'll go from there and just kind of do this, like that. And around here towards the ends, I use the watercolor tool to do some blending, and kind of around here too. Just because, you know, it makes it look nice. And sometimes I use lighter colors and stuff up here. Layer them a bit. Like you know, where highlights will be. And then the watercolor tool to handle these. And that's actually just how I color hair. It's really quite simple. Like, you know, if one place looks weird, I do a little bit more blending. Maybe even with the lines, do a little bit of blending just to make them look less standy outish. And that's actually pretty much just about how I color the hair. As for the clothes, I usually just fill in the area. Like, let me just do this really quick. Just, he wears a dark gray shirt, kinda. So I would just, let me get out the ink pen, go pretty big. No, I'm going to use a brush tool since it's bigger. You know, fill that in, You know, and then with a darker color with the brush, I just kind of go in get the folds, maybe do a little bit of blending with the watercolor, like right here, you know, things like that, make it look a little bit more natural, fuzzy. And yeah, it's pretty simple from there. Just clean that up. Use the watercolor to make this look really nice. And yeah, that's pretty much how I color things. One more thing would be, how do I color eyes? Well, let me go ahead and show you. I'm just gonna pop a layer under this one, get this. So this would be an eye, kinda. And there's that. Go down here, fill it in with the solid color we want. We're gonna make this one red. Except actually I would make that like a slightly darker color. And from here we just use a nice dark color, make a good little sort of circle in the center, and with the watercolor we blend it up and out kinda. You know, if you want to, you can add some more dark up here, use the watercolor on that too. Kind of try and keep that circle solid at the bottom. That's what you're really going for, is to make it look nice and blended, but also keep a very solid dark color at the bottom. And then I would take lighter color, do some of that, maybe with the ink pen, get in the bottom, so it's really bright. Blend that in a U shape, and then once it's up there, you kind of go in with the darker, keep it more like even U-like out the sides. And then with that light color, I take a marker, or well, actually brush tool. And with the marker I blend with the eyes kinda, and then a wee bit on the outer edges with the watercolor, and sometimes just little dots of like with the ink pen, little dots of shade of brightness, you know, like that kinda. Sometimes I do that, or like a bigger thing, and if I'm feeling really fancy, I go up a layer, and I use the brush to make a nice big circle, and then I use the airbrush as an eraser, and I go in and kind of fade out most of the circle while keeping that lower bit right there, and that makes it pretty nice, pretty shiny. And then I'd add some more little tiny light spots down here, you know, like that. And sometimes I wouldn't even bother with the little shiny bits, like there, you know. And that's kind of how I do my eyes. And zoomed out, they look pretty, you know, I like them. So there you go, that's a bit on coloring. Thank you for watching. I hope this video helped with coloring and stuff, because I know some of my friends have difficulties. So thank you very much for watching, and I hope this helped.